welcome back. So what I have done now is I've actually couched on all of the different colours. Now normally I would take these through to the back individually and I'd over sew them individually. However, to show you in one go, it takes about 10 minutes to do each one of those couching lines. So obviously we were just on the red when I was demonstrating how to do the couching, and now I've done the orange, yellow, green, purple, blue and pink. So what I need to do now is I need to plunge these through to the back, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you'll need a really big needle and you'll also need your scissors, okay? So I'm going to zoom in and you'll be able to see exactly where I'm plunging all those, because what we need to do is we need to stage the stitching. Okay, let me move those out of the way. Okay, so this is the area that we're going to be plunging, and normally, as I said, I would actually do this as I was going along, but for demonstration purposes it's much better to have left it so that I can show you the gradual gradient that each one of them will be plunged in. So I'm going to move these out of the way. So these are all the ends, and also what I'll show you is this is how much of the colours I've actually got left. So depending on which ones there are, I've got plenty of the pink here left as well that I haven't chopped off yet, but you'll have none of the red and you'll have quite a lot of the others. And again with the cottons, you'll have quite a lot of the cottons left. So I'm just going to move all these over, split them up and just move them over to this side instead of them being in my way here, because obviously I'm plunging, but I've left them a little bit of a way up, and all I'm going to do is just show you the plunging, and then I'll show you the sewing off on the back. So I'm going to use this big needle, and it's a very large-eyed needle, and we're just going to plunge all this area here. So I'm just going to move that to one side. Okay. So the first one I'm obviously going to be doing is the red one just here. And I've already done these two, and you can see I've actually plunged them separate all the time. So this one's very low, and then that one's a little higher, and then this is much higher. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to plunge that a little bit longer than this one. I've got an orange line just in here. You can either put that orange line in, or as per the design, I'll show you, there are a couple of other lines, so just let me get that out for you and I'll just show that to you there. So you've got some other lines just here, and if you tack those on as well, then that gives you an idea of where your gradient is going to be on this. So let's just pop that in just there. So to plunge this through the fabric, you would take the needle down, take it through the fabric, and then you take it back in and you pop just the end that you need. So it's this one. I'm just going to pop that end through the hole, and it's a nice big hole, so it'll take the thread through very, very easily, and it won't damage your thread when you're pulling it through, because a lot of the time if you use smaller needles or you use other methods, it can severely damage your thread, and we don't want that if we can help it. So then I'm just going to take this one slightly further down again, and we're going to take this red one here, and I'm just keeping this red thread over to the side just at the moment. Obviously these all want to come back over and get in the way, so you just need to be careful. So I'm just going to pull that down through the fabric. Okay, so there are your 3 rows now. You've just got to make sure that you keep them straight and in line. So what we would need to do now is we'd need to actually take this red thread and finish that row off. And you should really do that before you do your next plunging. However, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to plunge this whole area, and then I'm going to just stitch it again afterwards. So we're going higher again now. with our copper. I'm just going to take that down again through the fabric and then take it back in. And what that does is it creates the hole and the hardest part to pull through. So we're just going to pop that through there, and I'm just going to pull that down through. And you only need to take the very end of the thread through. If you take the whole of the end through, then it doesn't pull through as easily. So we're just going to pull that through like that. And it may sometimes push these over a little bit. Obviously it wouldn't do so much if they were actually couched down already. So I'm going to take this one longer, and it doesn't really matter. There's no prescribed lengths up and down. You could take two almost in together if you wanted to. So it's just a matter of pulling this through each time and going up and down, up and down. And you might want to just do some at almost the same level. In fact, what I'm going to do with this next one is I'm going to do it at almost the same level as that last copper line. So again, I've got my thread here from this row, and I'm just going to move it over to that side. So I'm just going to pick out this one here, pop that through. Now, as you can see, I'm lower here, much lower than this line. So I need to start grading up to follow the line, but I'm still going to be plunging my threads. If you look where that line is, just there, you can see that the red ones are much lower than it anyway. So you need to make sure that your threads are just below that line, not above the line. Okay, so just hold them nice and flat just to make sure that they look nice and they're all nicely lined up and they're not bunching up too much, because you don't want that. So I'm just going to hold these nicely down now. And as I said, you should really couch these down before you plunge the next row. So I'm going to put one right up here now. The other thing, if you're doing all the oversewing and the plunging at once, you will find that the threads in the back do sometimes get in the way. Okay, so that's that row, and again I'm just making sure that they all lie nice and flat and in a straight line. Okay, so we're going to take this one just fractionally lower than the last one. And then we're going to take that quite a bit higher. Just make sure that you're doing it below, because this one now is just overlapping, and if I'd have put that thread over, then it would actually catch that underneath. So you just need to make sure that they are always below. And again, I'm just laying that down just to make sure that they lie nice and flatly. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to use this one to actually couch down all those different rows when I come to that bit. So I'm just going to split those over there, and then I've got these two nice ones just there. Okay, so I'm going to take this one up reasonably high. Again, I'm just going to check that that lies nice and flatly, and I'm just going to plunge that one just below the orange line. Okay, and then we're going to take that one quite a bit lower. Okay, through the eye of the needle. Okay, and again just make sure that that's lying nice and flatly, and then I'm actually going to take this next one just a bit longer again. So normally what you would do is you would couch this area up to here, but for demonstration purposes I've just left them up here so that I can show you how to do all the plunging. So you'd stitch them to about here, as we have with the orange here and the red, and then you would plunge them. just got to make sure that they all lie nice and flatly, because the risk for me now is with these all already going through and being loose here, it might mean that when I come to couch them down, they're more splayed out, and we don't want that. We want them to all be nice and close together like they are now. So here we've got this one just crossing, overlapping the other one, and you've just got to make sure that you get them all in the right order and that they don't cross over. And that's another reason why it would be better to do them all at the same time that you're actually couching down that row. Okay, so what we're doing here is I've just sewn down most of this area. So I've caught up here and I've sewn all of this down. So I've couched over it all and I've couched it up to here. So I've just left these few loose. So I'm going to plunge all these ones now right up to the end so that you can see how that should be done. So we'll just do that one a little bit longer. Some of these I've cut a little bit shorter than other ones. So that one is a very short one, but it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to do that one quite a bit shorter. Just make sure that purple one's out of the way. So obviously we don't want to catch any of the pieces in. Okay, and I'm leaving that length and only putting a small amount of it through. So that's a nice area of the green. Just working out that my line is here. So can you see how it's gradually going up? So I'm going to just bring this one down a little bit more now. Plunge that through there. So just make sure, because sometimes it can pop out, you do need to make sure that you've got enough of it through. And sometimes you might just need to hold it so it doesn't pop back out again. Put that one just in there. This one's a little bit shorter. Let's just stretch that. They'll all go very easily through the eye of this needle because it is such a big-eyed needle. And this is a long darner that I'm using. Okay, so that's just lying flat. You've just got to make sure that they all lie nice and flat. Okay, you can just see there that that was starting to go off that way, but I've brought it back because of where I've plunged the green area. So again, let's just move that over there. Make sure you're getting the right one every time, because otherwise you'll end up with an overlap. Okay. That one's through. Okay. Let's make sure they've gone all the way in. Okay. And then I'm going to put a longer one there. Just make sure that all three of the 3-ply twist go through the eye of the needle, because if they don't, then you'll end up shredding it and some of it will stay on the surface and it'll bung up. Okay, so I'm going to put the next one just there, next to that blue. I'm going to do a shorter one. Just got to make sure that you're picking the right thread every time. Okay, and then I'm going to do a much shorter one again, or just about the same length this time. So just have a look at the picture on the front or you can have a look at, this is the picture that you'll have on the front there, so you can see the different levels there on that one. So I'm just going to move that out of the way a little bit. Carry on this area here. Again, just splitting that off, making sure that we're getting those down through the fabric. And you can pull them through at the back. See how they're nice and straight there? I'm going to do this one much, much shorter. So we're going over that orange line that I'd stitched on is not at all visible. Just push that back in a little bit because I don't want it. Because when you pull that, if that was all the way through, then it'd be very, very taut, and when you're wiggling it down, it just doesn't pull very easily down. Do that one about there. Make sure again you get the right one. Okay. Oops. See, that popped out then, so just got to be careful that all three of those strands do go through, and sometimes it's a good idea to just keep hold of them to make sure that they don't pop back out. Move that out of the way there for now. Okay, and again, just make sure that they're all lying nice and flat. Let's get that piece. Okay. And then I'm just going to poke them a little bit further down, and then that's our last two pieces that we will have put in. Okay, and then obviously I just need to make sure that I couch down the twist all the way down to the fabric. Okay, and then we've got this one, last one. I'm going to make that one a little bit longer just to flourish it a bit. And then you can see they'll be used to just oversew the very ends, and then you can see how nice that edge is. So we do have this tacking edge, because that's just a guide, that just needs to be unpicked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you quickly how to unpick that, and then obviously that's a lot easier for you to do, and then from this video we're going to move on to the next one, which is showing you how to put the felt on. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to snip that off just there, okay, and then all I do to just take that out is just pull it out like this. And because I've used the tracing paper and I've not used pencil, the dots that are created that will disappear with the white thread, I've not got any lasting marks, and then you can just take that bit out at the back when you turn it over. Okay, so I'm going to just snip that at the front for now, and then I'll pull it out at the back later. Okay, so that's your rainbow. Obviously you just need to finish off couching that down, and I'm going to flip it over now. I'm going to show you how to oversew at the back, so that you can attach all those off, and that's finishing each line of twist. So I'm now going to demonstrate how to oversew your threads down on the back, so that they are all fully attached. So we started obviously with a loop on the front, and now we've plunged the threads through and we're going to oversew them on the back, and that will secure them off, and it means they won't come out at any point. So obviously we've got quite a lot of different colours of threads here, so we just need to take them in order, and I tend to do about 2 at a time. So the trick with oversewing on the back is if you do it this way, then when you turn it over and you put it on padding and card it up, then you might actually be able to see the threads on the other side. So it's really important that if there's no stitching here, which there isn't, that you actually put it back on itself. So I'm going to take these first 2 threads and I'm going to move them back like that. So what you have to do is just down here is we're just going to oversew, and what you need to make sure is you're just coming up into the polyester cotton fabric and not straight through the silk as well. Obviously you have got your stitching on top of that. So I'm just going to take that needle through and then pull it across like that. Just make sure that your other threads don't catch, because they will want to, and obviously if they do, then it'll just make a mess at the back. So that's my first stitch. So I haven't secured that down yet because I haven't done a loop. I'm just getting that into position. Okay, so again I'm just going to hold those down like that, and we're just going to do another stitch very similar in place to the first stitch. So when I pull that through, again just make sure it doesn't catch any of the other threads. Pull that down, pull that tight, and now you can see it's holding that to the surface. Okay, so you can either go over, but obviously the more threads you get on lying alongside that, you won't be able to necessarily go this way with every single stitch. So you might have to go up and down with your stitches, which I'll demonstrate when we get on to the next row. So we're just going to put a stitch up there, and that way it will come over at the bottom. This is another reason why I prefer to do the lines one at a time, because these now will get in the way, and obviously if you've done them individually at the same time as you've actually couched them down, you sew. I tend to do about four different strands, so you'll be doing 2 couch rows, then over sewing them on the back, then that way they're not getting in the way of everything else. So I've gone over that 3 to 5 times, and then you just need to snip the very ends of that off like that, okay, because you don't need that excess of thread. So that's the first one, and then I'm going to take the next 2. So if you can, just push those a little bit out of the way. So again, just make sure that they're lying straight, okay. So this time, because my thread is here, I'm going to lie those down, but I'm going to come up straight away with my stitch over the other side. So this time it's already in position to some degree. So just before I pull that tight, I'm just going to pull that down, and then it'll secure that nicely in place. So again, take that over, and again take it over, and sometimes you might catch that other row in again, it doesn't really matter. So these are really long threads that I've left on the red because I did have plenty of the red. So again, I'm just going to cut it off, and it's just under 1 centimetre that I'm cutting it off there. Just be really careful that you don't cut any of these strands, because obviously that's your couching and you don't want to catch those. So again, I'm just going to take the final red ones here, and this time I'm on this side, so I'm actually going to sew over 4 strands. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to come up just there on the other side of this. So again, I'm going to pull that tight while I pull that down, and then what you can do is you can come up like that at the side. So I'm stitching up on the same side. If you've got strands in the way, that's sometimes a better method. And then I can go over that way and I can go on that side and then back up just about there. But just be careful that you don't catch any of the strands of the thread in when you do it, because otherwise it'll just pull it. So you need to just make sure that your needle is coming through nicely. Okay, so there I've just caught that little gold one in. So that is fully secured off. I'm again just going to snip that off like so. So you've got the 3 sets of 2 down there of the red, and you will do exactly the same all the way up for the rest of those strands there to make sure they're secured off and then they're not getting in your way. They're not in the way of anything, they're not therefore going to be shown, and they're also cut off at a nice length so you've not got all these unsightly ends. And then when you're on the front, you won't accidentally just catch one and it comes back through because you've secured it off at the back. So that concludes our demonstration for finishing off the plunging for the rainbow, and also over sewing the threads and securing them off at the back. So the next demonstration, as I said, is going to be felt, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.